welcome to my channel. I woke up to a strange stillness in my apartment, the kind that felt heavier than usual, like the air itself was holding its breath. At first I thought it was a dream, a continuation of one of those nights where reality blurred, leaving me questioning what was real and what wasn't. But as I opened my eyes, the reflection staring back at me from the mirror across the room froze me in place. It wasn't Alex. Not completely. My face was softer, my jawline delicate, and my eyes, had a subtle shimmer I didn't recognize in the morning light. The hair cascading down my shoulders wasn't the short, messy cut I was used to. It was long, silky, styled with care and undeniably feminine. Panic prickled at my skin, but underneath it an odd thrill stirred. For years, I had navigated a secret life, a balancing act between the Alex the world knew and the girl I sometimes became in private moments. Crossdressing had started as curiosity, a playful escape from the pressures of work and social expectations. It was a quiet rebellion against the rigid definition of myself, a small, exhilarating taste of freedom. But until now it had been entirely my choice, hidden behind locked doors away from anyone who could complicate it. I swung my legs over the edge of the bed and looked around my apartment. Everything seemed normal. The soft hum of the air conditioner, the faint scent of last night's coffee, the scattered papers from a late work project. But nothing felt ordinary anymore. My hands, delicate now in a way that made me hyper-aware of every movement, brushed against the smooth fabric of a blouse folded neatly on the chair. The clothes weren't mine, or at least not in the way they had always been. Isabella. Her name flashed in my mind. My girlfriend had always been perceptive, her intuition sharp enough to catch nuances most people missed. She knew me in ways that went beyond surface appearances, yet she had never seen this side of me fully. The thought of her discovering this transformation, whether by accident or design, sent a shiver down my spine. I wanted to hide, yet a part of me ached to reveal the truth, to show her this hidden facet of my identity. I walked toward the mirror, each step unsteady, heels clicking softly on the hardwood floor that now seemed to amplify every sound. My reflection was mesmerizing. I raised a hand to my cheek, tracing the contours of a face I didn't fully recognize. It was me and not me at all. The person staring back had a softness that Alex rarely displayed, a vulnerability mingled with confidence, as if the reflection itself carried secrets I had only dared to dream about. As I stood there, a flood of memories washed over me. The nights spent experimenting with makeup, the thrill of slipping into a dress that accentuated curves I didn't fully claim in daylight, the quiet exhilaration of high heels clicking against the floor in my empty apartment. All those moments had led to this, a transformation I hadn't anticipated waking up to, yet now seemed inevitable. The apartment door clicked softly in the distance, pulling me from my reverie. Isabella. She had returned early or perhaps never left. My pulse quickened as I debated what to do. Part of me wanted to run and hide, to retreat to the familiar comfort of Alex's identity. But another part, deeper, braver, urged me to face her, to let the world see this side of me for the first time. I took a deep breath and smoothed the blouse over my now slender shoulders, letting the fabric settle naturally. My reflection met my eyes again and I whispered softly, "This is me. This could be me." The thought alone was both terrifying and liberating. The apartment felt smaller suddenly, every corner charged with tension. I could imagine Isabella stepping through the door, the subtle tilt of her head, the curiosity in her eyes, and the questions she might ask. Could I explain this? Could I reveal my secret without shattering the delicate fabric of our relationship? Or would the truth push her away, leaving me stranded between identities I could no longer reconcile? My phone buzzed on the nightstand, a reminder of obligations I had long postponed. A meeting, a message from a friend, a note from work. Each ping was a tether to Alex's world, a stark contrast to the reflection in the mirror. I realized then that this was more than a mere moment of surprise. I had crossed a line, and waking up like this was a challenge I had to navigate carefully. Sitting on the edge of the bed, I traced the hem of the blouse, feeling the silky texture glide through my fingers. The world outside my apartment continued as usual, oblivious to the transformation within these walls. But inside, everything had shifted. The line between Alex and the girl everyone had only ever imagined blurred, and I had no idea where one ended and the other began. And in that uncertain, charged moment I knew one thing. Nothing would ever be the same again. This introduction section establishes the protagonist, their secret life as a crossdresser, the sudden physical transformation, the setting of the apartment, and the tension surrounding Isabella. It sets the stage for suspense, emotional conflict, and personal discovery. Once you're ready, I can continue to the build-up section, where the suspense deepens and the transformation becomes more physically and emotionally immersive. Do you want me to start the build-up next? The hours after waking up as this new version of myself felt like walking a tightrope over a chasm I couldn't see the bottom of. Every sound in the apartment, the hum of the fridge, the soft ticking of the wall clock, even the faint rustle of the curtains, made my pulse spike. I paced slowly, heels clicking lightly against the hardwood floor, careful to maintain balance while my mind raced with questions I didn't have answers for. How could I wake up like this? Was this real or some elaborate dream my brain had conjured while I slept? I moved toward the mirror again, unable to resist the pull of my own reflection. My hands traced the curves of my face, the softness of my jawline, the delicate arch of my eyebrows. Even the curve of my hips, accentuated by the skirt I now wore, made me stop and catch my breath. It was intoxicating. Every inch of this new body felt alive, aware, and vulnerable at the same time. I couldn't remember feeling so exposed and powerful simultaneously. Isabella's presence loomed in my thoughts. She had always been attentive, noticing details others would ignore. The idea that she might walk in at any moment made my heart pound like a drum in my chest. Could I maintain the illusion? Could I act naturally even as my body screamed a truth I hadn't shared? The tension was a constant companion, a quiet thrill threaded with fear. I decided to explore this new body in private, starting with the wardrobe. Dresses, skirts, blouses. Each piece felt like a revelation, a tool that reshaped the way I saw myself. Sliding into a fitted blouse, I felt the fabric cling to my skin, soft and smooth, enhancing curves I hadn't fully acknowledged before. The skirt swished gently as I walked, a rhythmic whisper that made each movement deliberate, almost sensual. I applied a light touch of makeup, just enough to enhance my features, careful not to overdo it. The brush glided across my cheeks, leaving warmth in its wake, and I marveled at the transformation. Every gesture, every tilt of my head, every sway of my hips felt like a performance, yet it wasn't entirely fake. This was me, or a part of me I had never fully expressed. The thrill of inhabiting this identity was addictive, but fear lurked beneath the excitement. What if Isabella returned and noticed something off? What if she realized this wasn't just a fleeting fantasy but a part of my identity I hadn't yet confronted? The suspense escalated when I heard the faint click of keys in the hallway. My pulse spiked. Was it Isabella coming home early? I froze, straining to control my breathing, my hands clenching the fabric of the skirt as if it could anchor me in reality. The door opened and she stepped inside, humming softly, oblivious to the transformation that had consumed my morning. "Hey, you've been up early," she said casually, but her eyes lingered on me longer than usual. Panic surged. I forced a soft smile, letting my voice slip into a higher, gentler tone I had practiced countless times in private. "Yeah, couldn't sleep." The words felt strange on my tongue, yet convincing enough to pass as Emma. As the day unfolded, the tension between fear and exhilaration grew. Isabella moved about the apartment, her presence a constant reminder of the precarious position I was in. Every glance, every casual question, every slight hesitation in her speech made me hyper-aware of the illusion I was maintaining. I had to navigate the space with care, balancing my movements and voice, keeping Emma alive while hiding Alex beneath the surface. The internal conflict was relentless. Shame and excitement collided in equal measure. I loved the thrill of this transformation, the sensation of finally inhabiting a body and identity I had only dared explore in secret. But guilt gnawed at the edges of my consciousness. I wanted Isabella to see this side of me, to accept it, yet the fear of rejection was overpowering. Each step, each gesture became a test of courage, a negotiation between desire and trepidation. By evening I was fully immersed in Emma. The blouse, skirt, and delicate accessories weren't just clothes. They were extensions of my persona. I practiced walking, sitting, even laughing, trying to make everything seamless. The apartment, once a familiar space, now felt like a stage, each shadow and sound amplifying the suspense. I could imagine Isabella entering at any moment and my heart raced at the thought. Would she see Emma, Alex, or both? Could she accept the duality without judgment? The suspense reached its peak when a knock sounded at the door. My breath caught. I wasn't expecting anyone. Hesitantly, I walked to the door, my heels clicking softly. Through the peephole, I saw a familiar neighbor holding a package. Relief washed over me, but only briefly. I signed for the delivery, all the while feeling Isabella's hypothetical gaze as though she were observing every move. The tension never fully lifted. It only shifted, now intertwined with my own exhilaration at inhabiting this secret life fully. Later, alone for a brief moment, I allowed myself a private celebration of the transformation. Standing before the mirror, I twirled slowly, watching the skirt flare with each turn. I ran my hands along the soft fabric, letting the thrill and vulnerability wash over me. For a fleeting moment I felt free to be Emma, to inhabit a side of myself I had kept hidden for so long. Yet even in that freedom the shadow of fear lingered. Someone could walk in at any second, someone could see, someone could shatter the delicate illusion I had created. And then, just as the night was settling into a quiet rhythm, my phone buzzed with a message from Isabella. Running a little late. See you soon. My heart skipped a beat. Too soon. The realization that I might be caught, that my secret could unravel in moments, sent a shiver down my spine. Every second from now on would be a test of composure, a balance between revealing myself and protecting the identity I had discovered overnight. I sat down on the edge of the bed, tracing the hem of the skirt, letting the silky fabric slide between my fingers. Every thought was electric with anticipation. I was addicted to this duality, the thrill, the risk, the secret. I knew the next moments, the next decisions could change everything. The night stretched ahead, filled with suspense, danger, and possibility, and I realized I had no choice but to face it head-on. The transformation was complete, the suspense unbearable, and the tension intoxicating. And deep down I knew that when Isabella returned, nothing would ever be the same again. This build-up section explores Alex's emotional and physical transformation, the thrill of inhabiting Emma, and the suspense of possibly being discovered by Isabella. It intensifies internal conflict and sets up dramatic tension for the climax. If you're ready, I can begin writing the climax section next, where stakes explode, close calls occur, and suspense reaches its peak. Do you want me to start the climax now? The apartment felt smaller than ever as evening deepened into night. Shadows stretched across the walls, elongating familiar furniture into strange, intimidating shapes. Every creak of the floor, every hum from the appliances seemed amplified, echoing the racing of my own heart. I was fully Emma now, the blouse perfectly fitted, skirt swishing with each step, makeup highlighting the subtle curve of my cheeks. But Alex still lurked beneath the surface, a constant reminder of everything I was trying to hide. I paced the living room, heels clicking softly, trying to remain graceful despite the tension coiling tightly in my chest. Isabella's absence was temporary, but her presence lingered everywhere. The way she had looked at me earlier, the quiet curiosity in her smile, the way she noticed details others would miss. The fear of being discovered twisted alongside the thrill of inhabiting Emma's identity. Every second felt like a test. Every glance at the mirror a reminder that I was performing a role that wasn't entirely a performance. Then it happened, a sudden sharp knock at the door. My pulse jumped. Not Isabella, she was supposed to be at a friend's gathering, but someone was here, someone who knew Emma as well as anyone could. My mind spun through possibilities. A neighbor, a colleague, a friend, anyone who could shatter the carefully constructed reality of the day. I froze, heels planted firmly, breath caught in my throat, debating whether to answer or retreat. Curiosity won. I opened the door slightly and peered out. It was Emma's roommate holding a package she had ordered. Relief surged, quickly tempered by the recognition that even this small encounter carried the potential for exposure. I smiled, voice light and feminine. "Hey, you got it." Her eyes flicked over me, and for a fraction of a second, I thought she might see through the illusion. I smiled wider, carefully maintaining Emma's casual composure, and the tension eased slightly, but only briefly. Once she left, I sank onto the couch, hands shaking slightly. This was no longer just a private experiment. It had become a high-stakes performance, one misstep away from revelation. My internal conflict churned viciously. Part of me reveled in the thrill, the intoxicating power of finally existing fully as Emma, while another part quaked at the possibility of rejection, judgment, and misunderstanding. The evening pressed on and I decided to embrace Emma fully. I practiced gestures, speech, and posture, ensuring that every motion was deliberate yet natural. Each movement became an exercise in balance, a negotiation between two selves. My reflection in the mirror was mesmerizing, soft, alluring, vulnerable, and powerful all at once. I ran my hands along the smooth fabric of my blouse, letting the sensation ground me while also amplifying the thrill of inhabiting this new persona. Then the door clicked. Isabella returned earlier than expected. My chest tightened. Could I maintain the illusion? My heart pounded as I adjusted the skirt, smoothed the blouse, and forced a smile. "Hey, Emma?" she said softly, stepping inside. Her voice held curiosity, amusement, and something else I couldn't quite place. Panic surged, but I forced myself to remain poised, voice gentle. "Hi, I was just waiting for you." She studied me closely, eyes scanning my figure, my expression, the slightest nuances of movement. Every second stretched endlessly, the apartment shrinking around us, the tension crackling like electricity. I realized then that the real test wasn't just maintaining Emma. It was whether Isabella could accept this part of me without fear, judgment, or ridicule. Her gaze softened slightly, but the flicker of suspicion lingered. "You look different," she said carefully, voice gentle yet probing. The words hit me like a lightning strike. I swallowed hard, debating whether to confess, explain, or continue the act. Every option carried consequences I wasn't sure I could navigate. Before I could respond, a loud crash from the kitchen startled both of us. A vase had fallen, shattering into fragments across the tile floor. My body tensed, a jolt of panic flooding my senses. Isabella moved to check the damage and I followed carefully, heels clicking against the hardwood. Every step was calculated, deliberate, an exercise in maintaining Emma's grace under pressure. As I reached the kitchen, a strand of wig slipped from my head, revealing Alex's shorter hair beneath. My stomach sank. Exposure was imminent. Isabella's eyes widened slightly, but instead of a harsh reaction, she gently adjusted the wig for me. Her touch sent an electric shiver down my spine, and I realized the stakes weren't just about concealment. They were about trust, vulnerability, and emotional connection. The night became a blur of near misses. Phone notifications, random knocks, and even the simplest domestic tasks felt like potential minefields. Each time I moved, each casual gesture had to be performed with meticulous attention. One false step, one mismanaged laugh, one slip of the voice, and the entire illusion could collapse. And yet, through it all, a strange exhilaration pulsed beneath the tension. I was not just surviving as Emma, I was thriving. The soft fabric of my blouse, the delicate sway of my skirt, the subtle click of heels against the floor. They were extensions of me, amplifying both vulnerability and confidence in ways I had never experienced. Then came the moment that cemented the duality of my existence. Isabella glanced toward the mirror and I instinctively adjusted my posture. In the reflection I saw two versions of myself. Alex, tense and anxious, and Emma, soft, composed, and undeniably feminine. The juxtaposition was almost surreal, a living embodiment of the secret I had kept for so long. My hands shook as I smoothed the skirt, aware that one careless motion could reveal the truth. She stepped closer, eyes narrowing, curiosity and concern mingling in her gaze. "Alex, Emma, what's happening?" she asked, voice soft but insistent. The tension spiked to an unbearable peak. I realized then that I was standing at a precipice. To reveal everything and risk rejection, or maintain the illusion and preserve a fragile secrecy. I took a deep breath, forcing calm over the storm of emotions. I don't fully understand it myself," I admitted, voice wavering between identities. "But this feels like me. Like a part of me I've been hiding." Her eyes softened, a faint smile appearing, but the ambiguity of her reaction only heightened the suspense. Acceptance? Confusion? Judgment? I couldn't tell. Every second that passed felt like an eternity, a suspended moment where reality, identity, and desire collided in ways I had never experienced. The climax wasn't just about being discovered. It was about confronting the duality of self, the thrill and terror of exposing a secret, and the delicate balance of trust and vulnerability. The apartment seemed charged with electricity, every shadow, every sound, every reflection amplifying the stakes. And then just as I felt the tension peak, the door clicked again. Someone else, unexpected, was entering. The sound froze me in place. Isabella's gaze flicked toward the door, and I realized with a jolt that the precarious equilibrium of the evening was about to be tested in ways I couldn't predict. In that instant, I understood the truth. The night wasn't over, the stakes weren't resolved, and the duality of Alex and Emma would be challenged like never before. My pulse raced, my hands shook, and I stood poised between fear and exhilaration, knowing that what happened next could change everything. This climax section escalates suspense, introduces near discoveries, and amplifies emotional and physical tension while highlighting Alex's dual identity. If you're ready, I can now write the cliffhanger ending, leaving the story unresolved and viewers eager for the next installment. Do you want me to proceed with the cliffhanger ending? The apartment was cloaked in shadows, every familiar object suddenly charged with uncertainty. My heels clicked softly on the hardwood floor as I moved toward the kitchen, trying to appear natural, yet every step carried the weight of possibility. Isabella stood near the doorway, her eyes scanning me with a mix of curiosity and something unreadable, her presence both comforting and terrifying. I felt exposed in ways I had never imagined. Emma's persona, carefully constructed over hours of trembling excitement and whispered rehearsals, was on the verge of unraveling. A stray lock of wig hair brushed my cheek, reminding me of the fragility of this identity. One slip, one moment of hesitation, and the illusion could shatter completely. And then the unexpected happened. The doorbell rang, a sharp, insistent sound that made my chest tighten. Who could it be at this hour? Isabella frowned slightly, walking toward the door, while I hesitated, torn between revealing myself and preserving the secrecy I had fought to maintain. My heart pounded as I contemplated my options. Isabella opened the door and I caught a glimpse of someone familiar. Emma's best friend from work. Someone who knew Emma's mannerisms and quirks as well as anyone could. My stomach twisted. Recognition was immediate in her eyes, but whether she suspected the truth or simply assumed it was Emma standing before her, I couldn't tell. The three of us froze in the doorway, a moment suspended in time. The air was electric with tension, every heartbeat amplified, every breath shallow. I could feel both Alex and Emma pulsing within me, each vying for dominance, each aware of the precarious situation. The room seemed impossibly small, every shadow and flicker of light heightening the suspense. Isabella's gaze shifted between me and the visitor, curiosity mixed with something I couldn't name, concern, amusement, suspicion. I swallowed hard, attempting to steady my voice as I greeted the unexpected guest. Hi, welcome. The words felt foreign, slipping from Emma's lips, delicate and unfamiliar yet utterly convincing. The visitor smiled politely, leaning in slightly. Hey Emma, you're here early. Her tone was casual, yet the intensity in her eyes suggested she noticed something unusual. My hands trembled slightly as I adjusted the skirt, a small, subconscious gesture meant to maintain composure. Every movement was scrutinized, every inflection of voice potentially revealing the truth I had hidden for so long. Time seemed to stretch, each second drawn out like an eternity. I could feel Isabella's eyes on me, the visitor's attention sharpened, and my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. The balance I had maintained so delicately all day was on the verge of collapse. Would they see through Emma? Would they recognize Alex? Or would the carefully crafted illusion hold, just long enough to survive the evening? Then, in a sudden, almost cinematic moment, a piece of the wig slipped, revealing a hint of Alex beneath. My breath caught. Panic surged as I fumbled to adjust it, hands shaking. Isabella noticed first, her expression flickering with surprise and a subtle smirk that made my stomach knot in anticipation. The visitor's eyes widened slightly, but her lips pressed into a thin line, concealing a reaction I couldn't read. I realized then that the entire evening had been a delicate dance on the edge of discovery. Each gesture, each glance, each careful word had been a negotiation between two selves, and now the boundary had been breached. I stood frozen, caught between exhilaration and dread, as both identities pulsed within me, tangled in fear and desire. Isabella stepped closer, voice low and deliberate. Alex. Emma, what's going on? She asked, calm yet charged with intensity. The question hung in the air like a live wire, impossible to ignore, impossible to answer fully without exposing everything. My throat tightened. One word could change everything. One confession could shatter the fragile reality we had navigated together. The visitor shifted slightly, watching us both, waiting for an explanation I didn't know how to give. The room seemed to shrink further, the shadows pressing inward, the weight of anticipation almost unbearable. I could feel Emma's confidence waver, Alex's anxiety rising, and the delicate balance of my dual identity trembling on the brink of collapse. Then, without warning, the phone on the counter buzzed. A message from an unknown number flashing across the screen. I caught a glimpse. "I know what you've been hiding." A cold shiver ran down my spine. The words were brief but devastating, a confirmation that my secret might not be safe after all. Isabella glanced at the screen, her eyes narrowing, while the visitor looked between us, sensing the tension in the air. My hands shook, the silky fabric of my blouse slipping slightly beneath my fingers. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself, but the suspense was suffocating. The night, the transformation, the dual identity, the presence of both Isabella and the unexpected visitor. It was all a perfect storm, each element threatening to expose me completely. I could feel the pulse of adrenaline in my veins, the mix of fear and exhilaration making my limbs tremble. And then, just as I was about to speak, the lights flickered, plunging the apartment into semi-darkness. Shadows danced across the walls, elongating familiar objects into strange, ominous shapes. I froze, heels clicking softly against the floor, breath shallow. In that instant I realized the truth. There was no turning back. The secret I had cherished, the identity I had nurtured, and the thrill of inhabiting Emma were now inextricably entwined with danger and uncertainty. The door closed slowly behind the visitor, a faint creak echoing in the tension-filled apartment. Isabella's eyes held a mixture of concern, curiosity, and something I couldn't decipher, while my reflection in the mirror caught my eye. A dual image of Alex and Emma, impossible to separate, impossible to deny. The suspense was unbearable. The night had become a web of uncertainty, every heartbeat a reminder that revelation could strike at any moment. My secret, my dual identity, and the fragile illusion I had crafted were all on the edge of exposure. And in that unresolved moment, I realized one undeniable truth. Nothing would ever be the same again. The screen freezes there, leaving the audience suspended in anticipation. Did Isabella understand? Would the visitor reveal the secret? Was Emma a permanent part of my life, or a fleeting illusion about to be shattered? The story ends with the question lingering in the air, a cliffhanger that promises danger, revelation, and emotional turbulence in the next episode. The duality of identity, the thrill of secrecy, and the tension of discovery remain unresolved, urging viewers to speculate and comment. This cliffhanger ending leaves viewers on edge with multiple unresolved threads. Isabella's reaction, the visitor's knowledge, the mysterious text, and the tension of Alex/Emma's dual identity. It sets up perfect suspense for the next installment. If you want, I can now compile the entire story into a single polished 12,000-word YouTube-ready script with pacing optimized for dramatic reading, cliffhangers, and engagement cues. This would include dialogue, narrative flow, and suspense markers throughout. Do you want me to do that next?